Okay, you know you have to be back on when? You know when? I don't know, do you know when? You have to be back on at 2:08. Okay, 2:08. I think I have an alarm that goes off at that time. I need to be muted. Yeah.
Hi, Tatiana.
Hi, everyone.
And
Hi,
Good morning.
hey, good morning.
Tatiana, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
A better week.
It's better, but it's also, it's, I'm not pushing anything. So I'm not asking for anything. So,
Yeah.
But anyways,
That's good.
how's everybody else doing?
I'm okay. It's chilly here in Los Angeles. Gonna get some rain today, which is exciting for us. So sad that rain is exciting.
Rain for me is normal.
Yeah. We don't get enough of it.
We get plenty.
And some our way.
Yeah. Well, it's just what life is about.
Exactly.
My 5-year-old had outdoor hockey practice this week. It was like 15 degrees outside. So I
Ooh.
sat in the car while he
Yeah.
had a blast. It's just crazy. I'm like, you are insane.
That's not my style at all. Where do you live?
Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
right.
It's like the coldest week of the year, and yeah, all
Yeah,
these
well-
kids are outside playing hockey.
The nice thing about Washington, it's north like you are, but
It's
We don't
totally
have the
different
ex-
climate.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally different. We don't have the extreme temperatures at all. So I sort of like that.
I mean,
Don't
I
like
grew
it.
up with snow. I didn't like it. I don't like it at all. I still, when it gets cold, like here, with 50 is cold,
Oh, God.
40 is really cold, 30 you're just like, ooh.
I'm like, where can I go over spring break that the high is at least 50? So I like it'll feel so much warmer.
I don't know. I still have frostbite on my toes that like for being a kid that come out every once in a while.
No, really.
But I miss
Yeah.
ice skating and I mean, skiing is fun, but
Hmm.
Well, I can go to the mountains and there's snow and everything else, and skiing just an hour
Yeah.
away. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I can't get to places that are colder.
Right.
Yeah,
hello.
guys. Hi.
and I can see the snow from when the sun is out and there's no clouds. I can see the snow on the mountains, which is really nice. So
don't have to be in it.
no,
That's
Yeah.
perfect. Does anybody have any time constraints today?
I have to jump off in an hour. So I don't
Okay.
necessarily need to go first, but just
Okay,
yeah,
no,
have to
that's
be
good to
off.
know.
no.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
Anybody?
Who's that? Oh, that's you, Monica. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, it's me.
When you're
All
doing
right,
it on
well,
the phone, you can't see everybody that's in there until you move to the other side, and you're like, wait a minute,
Right.
nobody's talking on this side.
All right, well, so I guess we'll just, I don't know what order you guys came on. I'll just put in the chat box, does anybody want to start first? And then I'll
I
put the order in
can.
the chat box.
I can, Jen.
Okay, great. Hi, Jen.
Hi. You want me to start now? Or are you going to get your list? Oh, okay.
Well, I'll just be doing that let's start with your celebration and then we'll move into coaching.
My celebration. Well, like yesterday, yeah. Yesterday felt like a good day. Like most of the day, when people would call me, I think I talked to you and maybe told you this, that, people called me and asked how I was doing, and I was able to say good, which was the first time in a really long time I've said that. So, I usually just
That's
say
huge.
okay, or I'm alive, or I'm hanging in there, or something like that. So that was unusual, and that felt better. I can't say that after I talked to you that the day ended quite as well. That's what I wanted to talk about here, but but so that was a celebration. I guess I had a good weekend with a lot of friends and other families that I did things with, and was able to feel like those activities were meaningful and special, rather than just kind of feeling like I'm tagging along, burdening people with my presence. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt
Yeah.
like that I had a bit of life this weekend with other people rather than being like a sympathy project for them or something.
I know what you mean. Mhm.
So-
Good. You're more
I did-
yourself.
so
You
I
feel
think
more
that-
yourself.
I guess, I don't know. I just, I felt like I had things that didn't make me feel like someone was missing all the time,
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was the,
I hope that will become like something that, increases like the number of times that you feel that way, or the amount, like the length of time that you feel that way will get longer.
yeah.
Increase more and more.
So I don't know if it's appropriate for this call, so I could just tell you, so, and then you can tell me. I
Yeah,
had
sure.
like an encounter with my husband. He was doing, what he usually does, comes here in the evening to either help or spend time with the kids, whatever the, schedule allows. And it didn't end well because of our conversation, it was pretty much like typical kind of childish back and forth stuff we do. Um, I feel like he's more childish, but I'm sure I contribute. So um, all of this, all of this stuff I'm learning, I'm trying to use it and be aware and better myself and catch myself from doing things. And a lot of it was by text, which is probably better. So I have the conversation I could share. But I kind of just wanted like some feedback of like,
Sure.
you know, this kind like where could this have been better, and or this was okay, this was you saying your boundary, you know what I mean? Like I'm getting so
Totally.
much different information that it's too overwhelming for me at the time to say like, okay, this is definitely what I should say, or I should definitely stop this conversation, or you know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
do what feels okay to me at the time, and then I reflect on it afterwards and ruminate on it, and I'm like, I'm sure that someone would tell me that I could have done better. So that's
Mhm.
what I feel like. So the
Yeah, but
conversation,
it's in reflecting on those things though that we learn so much, right? Like in terms of reflecting and saying, well, what could I have done better in service of what it is that I'm trying to change or
yeah,
what my vision
exactly,
is. So
exactly.
I think that's useful. So
Well,
as long as you're not ever going to beat yourself up because these, you're still in the beginning stages and these conversations are triggering.
yes.
So tell me a little bit about,
So what
what
was
happened?
going on?
What's the conversation? Yeah.
Okay.
What were you guys talking about?
So it was two things going on. I had asked him earlier to do a favor because he's the technical person, and I needed a document for the kids' health records scanned in so I could email it to someone that I was getting some insurance authorization for. So I had asked him by text earlier about that, and I had the document available for him. So that was one thing. And then on this every other night, he puts the kids to bed. And so last night he was putting the kids to bed. My youngest son is very resistant to that bedtime thing and causes me trouble just about every night. And I've communicated to him that, as soon as he leaves, that he's up with me for 2 more hours because I keep telling him to go to bed and he's not, he's resisting and it's a big mess. And so I was like, when you put him to bed, if you could like stay long enough to make sure he stays in bed, that would be really more helpful because I'm trying to do other things and he ends up, that becomes me putting him to bed every night.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that was what I communicated. But and I have said that before, but this particular night, my youngest was screaming bloody murder, pounding on the wall, and just, having a bit of a fit when he came over to say, okay, good night, I'm leaving. And I'm like, you're leaving me with this? Like, is that putting him to bed? So I said, could you stay to where he's at least going to be calm and stay in his room? Or he's actually in my room because whatever, he has to be in my room for right now. But that's not really the point. But so he said, okay, I'll stay for 5 more minutes. And then I said, oh, and did you scan that document in? And so he said, oh, I'll do that while I'm waiting for him for 5 minutes. So so he starts doing that, and my son is screaming and kicking the wall, and and that's not okay with me for him to keep doing that. So I go in to try to just calm him down and tell him to stop the bad behavior and whatnot. And eventually he stopped making so much noise, and my husband, I guess had, his 5-minute timer went off or whatever, and so he was like, okay, I'm gonna go now. And then I just kind of reiterated, I was like, you think he's gonna stay in there? I mean, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be up as soon as you leave. You've only been here for 5 minutes. And I just calmed him down. But whatever, that sort of started him getting irritable, and he was like, this is your problem. When you're not here, I put them to bed in 5 minutes and they stay in bed and 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 whatever. And he was like irritated as he left mid conversation, something about, the only reason I'm putting them to bed here is because you won't collaborate with me, or I don't know. He said something to that effect. So, but I came inside and just kind of finished that conversation by text saying, the kids are living here in their house, sleeping in their beds, and you're putting them to bed here because that's what's best to have the most stability for them right now. And that, can't
Mhm.
remember now what else I said, but it was, just something to that effect. And he said, okay, good to know, or something like that. So I thought we were done with that.
Mhm.
But then the next thought on my mind was, okay, that conversation's done. So I look on my phone to see if that document he was working on is in my, he sent it to me and I don't see it. So I just said, are you planning to send me that document? The scanned document. Just following up, because once he leaves here, I have trouble getting in touch with him. He ignores my messages for a while. So anyway, I just, checked real quick because I know he's en route and he'll probably still respond to me. And rather than just saying yes or something, he says, why wouldn't I? So then I said, well, I don't have it yet. So that's why I'm asking. And he said, patience is a virtue, so I mean, I'm saying this tone because he's saying it like, like I'm being impatient, So he's basically accusing me of being impatient. So I say, I have patience among other virtues. I'm just asking because of the circumstances that you left and the fact that you were working on it before you left. And I just assumed I would have received it, if you,
Yeah, right.
know,
That expectation was sort of created and.
yes, I expected to have received it. And when I didn't, well, then I'm checking to see if there was some problem like that,
Mhm.
maybe got distracted with the conversation or that, something didn't go through in the email or whatever.
Mhm.
And then he's saying, well, thanks for checking up on me, Mom. But, something like that. Thanks for checking up on me, Mom, but I have a 1 to 3 day business day turnaround time. And I was like, I'm not aware. I was like, I'm not aware of this policy. And then he sends it to me, in mid text of that conversation, he sends it to me. And I just, and I just said, I'm not aware of this policy. Are you talking, what is this regarding? Things with the kids? And I just said, I could have taken a picture of this document myself, which is what he ended up doing with the phone. I said, I could have taken a picture of this document myself. I just asked you because you're usually the person that scans it in and puts it in a file and knows where to, store these kinds of things. But if it's too much, if you can't be bothered to help, to do things for our kids when it needs to be done, I won't ask you for help with those things or something like that. So I was having a little bit of, irritation there and not just containing that. I, I realize, but I'm just saying like what's evident from what it seems like he's doing. And he's saying, no need to attack my parenting skills just because you're impatient. And, and he said something about trust is also a virtue. I can't remember where that went in the conversation. I can't read it to you because I'm looking at the Zoom rather than it, but he said, trust is also a virtue. And I said, yeah, I have that too with God and trustworthy people. And so that was kind of another dig, but not really, but just like, don't accuse me of not trusting people. You're not someone that I'm going to trust. So I didn't say that, but because of things that he's been doing. And but that's stupid to say anyway, because in our entire relationship, it's always,
He started with the digs. He started with the digs and the passive aggressive comments.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And I got hooked in because I feel the need to defend myself from this nonsense. And, especially, I mean, like, I didn't think it was inappropriate to ask, are you planning to send me this? I didn't say it irritated or anything, it was just like, just following up on something that wasn't done. And that's typically how I would be in our relationship too. If I had asked him to do something and I hadn't yet, gotten it and expected to, I would follow up. But he might consider that nagging. I don't know what the time frame is he expects, but I expected he's gonna just take the pictures and send it right to me, and then he's gonna go home and do his own thing, and anyway. So a little more of that was just I just said I wasn't attacking your parenting, maybe you're prioritizing or your priorities. And to that, he said something that didn't make any sense about thanks for prioritizing my priorities for me or something. And I said, I don't know what that means, but you're in control of your priorities and people are able to see it through your life. And then he says, something like you prioritizing everything else over the past 7 years over your husband, and me being so noble not to tell anyone about it. And you're not one to talk about, you're no authority on prioritizing things or something. So yeah, so that was his biggest attack. And then I just said, I know that's your current narrative. I don't accept that as my reality. I've always prioritized my husband and family, as I continue to. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I said, I'm sorry that that's not your recollection of your reality right now.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
a
just,
good response. That's a really
without-
good response to
that's
that
okay?
attack. Yeah, I
Okay.
like that response.
Okay, because I mean, I felt like I was maybe using some of the skills that I had in that response, but I didn't know, is that too much defending myself? But I mean, I just said, I said, no husband or wife is perfect all the time. So I certainly agree that I could do better. And at least my current
Well, you're
priorities,
the one,
at least my
you're the
current
one
priorities are in
you're the
alignment with
one
my
working on
values.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. You're the one that's here right now working on yourself and learning the relational skills, and that's why you're here right now. He's
Yeah.
not doing that. So,
No,
but
I
it
know.
hurts though. It hurts to hear. I mean, it sounded like it got into a fight. Like when you make a request of him, he just hears it through the old lens and immediately gets a dig. He got a couple digs in on you before you finally kind of bit back a little bit. And so you definitely can't like take full ownership of all of that and say that that was all on you, right? Because he kind of
No,
started
that's how
with
it
that.
always is. He's always like attacking and then I'm defending. That's kind of our thing. At least that's how I experience it. Like blaming, wrongfully blaming or accusing me. Like in that, he was accusing me of, being his mom, controlling him, not being patient, not trusting, not prioritizing him for 7 years. They're like, I don't know what he means by that, because like to me, and knowing myself, I know the most important thing in my life has been my family and my, the whole family. My life doesn't reflect anything other than that. Like it wasn't like I was traveling for work and hanging out with other people or whatever. I mean, so I don't know. I mean,
But it still hurts,
he may be equating his needs being met to me prioritizing him, something like that, and feeling like his needs aren't being met, so therefore I'm not prioritizing him, like a sexual thing or something like that, but to me, I'm like prioritizing him and, like, who's the most important people in my life? Obviously, it's been him and the kids, for the whole time. I mean, that's my world.
Well, that's why, see, anytime we move into anytime that's the boundary thing, like once he starts, saying things like at first it was very indirect, it was veiled and sort of passive aggressive. And I think that the best thing to do is to just not bite, like don't take the bait, just don't take the bait, right? Because then once you get pulled in, then you're in that territory where then you might end up going, oh, did I play a part in that? And then you're second guessing yourself. So the more that you don't bite, the better. But
like when
I also think
patience is a virtue, like not responding to that or
yeah,
earlier
I think,
on than that.
yeah, you could just not reply to that and just, because it wasn't about patience, it was just about a mismatched understanding of what the time frame on that agreement was. He said yes to something, but it wasn't clear what the time frame was. It was just that you didn't have, you were thinking it was a different time frame, especially since he was doing it at the house. Than he thought, but just you asking, he's hearing it as you're, on his case, or he's hearing it through those lenses. The best thing you can do in that situation is just to say, I'm just wondering, like making it really literal, like I'm not asking this question as a rhetorical question. I'm not asking this question as a dig. I'm just asking this question literally. I just want to know what I can expect. Give me just like, what's your time frame on when you might get that back to me, so that I can gauge myself and I know what to expect. Like sometimes we just have to be very clear. My intention in asking this question is this. I can hear that you've heard it differently. but that's not how I meant it. So you can always clarify what your intentions are without being defensive. If you see that someone's misunderstood you or turning it into something else, you can always say, I'm only asking for these reasons. And as long as I know what to expect, it's fine, right? And then you are sort of reminding him of like, whatever your old story is not what's happening right now. And it's okay to remind someone of that. That's not automatically defensive, right? That would be the first thing. Then the second thing is,
Can I ask a question real quick?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when I first got the response that I got from asking, if he was gonna send it, and and could tell that he was like irritated or whatever, that's when I said, I'm just asking because it seemed like you would have already sent it to me, because I saw you working on it. It seemed like you would have already sent it to me, and because of the circumstances under which you left, I thought it was possible that, you got
Mhm.
distracted or,
Yeah.
whatever, something like that. But his response was not of understanding like you would expect when I'm explaining that. It was, thanks for checking on me, mom, and real
Yeah,
irritated.
right,
So,
right.
so I
Right,
feel
that's what
like
I'm
when I
saying.
try to explain things like that, that's the kind of thing I get. So
And that, right, totally. So this is a great example of like, you did that, you did try to clarify your expectations, and he's still going to kind of hammer at that narrative, right? And then that, I mean, at that point, you can just say, okay, I hear that you have misunderstood my intentions, and I accept that and disengage. Like, I accept the fact that you have misunderstood me, or I accept the fact that that is how you see it.
okay.
Even though that is not how I see it. Okay, and then to just disengage. Like, we can't control how they're going to hear it. It takes a lot of consistency over time and changing that narrative over time before they start to see it differently. So you're right. Sometimes we will have the perfect response and we'll communicate in the right way, and it's still not going to land because they're committed to the narrative in that moment for whatever reason. That's what he needs to feel good about what he's doing right now. That's how he needs to see it. That's not something you can control, but you can, what's on your side of the street is the things that you say. And I feel like you did a good job of that. You did a good job of that. And then you did get hooked in at one point, which is understandable. And then you did, when he really hit below the belt, then you were able to say, I'm sorry that you see it that way, and that's not how I see it. And that's a really strong way of holding that line of like, I don't accept your narrative. I hear that that's yours. I'm not taking that in. And it's hurtful, it's hurtful. And so I think that considering that it was hurtful and it could make somebody even fight more, I feel like that was a good response. And this is it's just such good practice, I think, to flex that muscle. And in everything that you're doing, when you're in the middle of that type of interaction, you can stop and ask yourself, what is my vision for how I want to be that I have? What are the beliefs that I've been internalizing? And what response would be most in alignment with those things?
Yeah, that's the
So
tricky
you want to, the trick is to not let yourself go low and go back, because then you're just giving them ammo to feed the old narrative. And then you give yourself reason to feel bad about, like, oh shoot, I did that. I didn't do that right,
Yeah.
or whatever. And it isn't about perfection at all. It just isn't, it can't be. It is just about progress and practicing these things every opportunity that you get. So you want to welcome these opportunities, welcome the opportunity to not get hooked in the next time he throws out a comment like, thanks mom, or, that kind of thing. Practicing, calling that out without engaging it or drawing a line for yourself. And there's many different ways that you can do that. Some people would say, I would just ignore that. Some people would say, I would call it out and say, I hear that passive aggressive comment, and that comment is a reflection on you, not me, or, and then you can disengage. But the problem isn't with texting. It's so easy to get hooked in, and then you want to conserve your mental energy. And anytime you feel like you're getting pulled down that old road, which is so hard, when hurtful things are being said, that's the moment where you want to like put a hard stop in, whether that means turning off your phone or whether that means walking away, whether that means reaching out into the Facebook group and sharing or venting in there, whatever you have to do to stop that pull, if there's any pull to the old ways. But I feel like you did a lot right in what you shared.
Okay, well, thank you.
What do you
I
think?
hope- Well, I mean, that's why I was reading over it, and then I called my friend, and as I tell her about it, she's like, that sounds like the same garbage you guys are always doing. And so I'm like, that I mean, she didn't say like anything was particularly bad about something that I said, but just, just the whole back and forth, not accomplishing anything, just, back and forth at each other kind of thing. Like if there's a bigger picture goal of trying to have positive encounters, and what I'm saying, it's hard,
Yeah,
kind of hard to
it
balance.
is hard. It is hard because you
trying
want to
have-
try to, yeah.
trying to make points when points need to be made that are regarding our kids or something like that. Trying to
I also
balance
think it's
that.
a fair
that.
request. I think if the kids are getting put down and you're taking turns with that, I think it's a fair request to ask him, when you put them down, can you just make sure they're really down?
Yeah,
Like that would just be great and I'll do the same, because you do the lion's share, right? You're home with them, you're doing the lion's
Yeah.
share anyway.
yeah,
And so that's a fair request in terms of equity. It's just one of the things that's tricky. You're in this gray area where it's like you're not together, but you're trying to parent together in the same space that you were before. What are the
Yeah.
expectations? And when you make a request of him in that way, he's going to hear it because all of the external prompts, all of the cues of the environment are the same. So in his mind, he's got all of these reminders, and like he's going to hear it through the lens of, she's just trying to control my parenting. This just feels too much the same, right? And that is really tricky for you because it is a fair, reasonable request. But as long as you know that he may not agree to it. I mean, you can't make him do it. All you can do is say, it would help me a lot.
yeah,
It's up to you. I obviously can't control it, but it would be helpful if when you put them down, that you know that they're really down. But then he has the choice to not do that. And that's just information, right? That's just data to be collecting.
You just reminded me that is what I said when I ended that conversation by text after he left. That is what I said. I was just explaining why they're sleeping here, and then I said that that if that if you're going to put him down and leave right away, you might as well not put him down, because I have to then do it for the next 2 hours. So I just said it'd be the most helpful if you could make sure that he's going to stay in his bed before you leave. So that did end that conversation, and he said, good to know, and then we just carried on with, I can't remember why. Oh, then it was the scanned document that caused more of the long thing, it was that whole thing.
Because he heard your question as an accusation.
Oh,
He
see,
didn't
that I don't
hear it as-
understand, but yeah, I mean, I know he does that. He hears things totally differently than when I mean them. He heard it as, you didn't do this or something.
Yeah,
you did-
right.
you
He
didn't-
hears it as like, yeah, that's how he probably heard it. And so then he wants to like attack you as a way of defending himself. So all you can do is try, keep doing, coming forward. Maybe if you feel like you're going to be asking a question that's going to be heard in the old lenses, then reach out to me beforehand and we can brainstorm like what would be a different way of saying that? What would be a different way of asking that question? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And then we can play around with that because we want it to feel different. That's the main thing.
yeah. I think I need a better picture of what the different is supposed to look like. That's what I'm, I think that's a challenge for me.
Yeah. Well, and it really depends on the situation and it depends on the person, right? Whatever your pattern interrupt is. So
Yeah,
if
no, I
there's
mean,
a history,
what's my difference supposed to look like? That's mostly been, it's been about being calmer and not anxious, not worrying, not, a little more trusting.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
I'm supposed to
You're
go.
already,
I'm supposed to go with the flow. So in that case, I should have just let him, okay, bye. I'll take care of getting them back to bed when they get up or something like that. Would that have been a better
well,
response?
no, you can still feel disappointed. Like you can still bring that up at a later time. But if you already brought it up and he still did it that way, I would take that as, okay, he is not listening to me. He's not
Oh, yeah.
understanding that, or he's not listening, or he doesn't care or whatever. But I would, that point, I probably wouldn't have brought it up again, because then at that point, you're trying to control it. You're trying to get him to do the thing that you already asked him to do that he already chose not to do. So that would be news story. But you do have the right to also then later circle back with him and say, let's talk about bedtimes. And so it works for both of us. Let's talk about this. And you can bring up the conversation again, and you can share it again in a different way. It just might not, maybe not at that time. That would be an example of news story, because it's not about just not speaking your truth. You want to find a way to like speak your truth and still ask for things. And then if it's not working, then reconfiguring it and collaborating in that way. And so that would be one thing. And then the other thing is asking questions differently than how it used to be asked. There might just be a change of wording or something like that. And I think that will just depend on, maybe we should do, if you want to send me like, what is the old story? What did you used to do? How did you used to say things? And then I can, help you brainstorm on like, what would be a new way of saying those things where it sounds different and there's no reading between the lines, right? There's no reading between the lines. It's just because there's no context, because there's no history that will help him. The history is what's helping him create meaning out of your question. So it's when the question sounds different and it feels different is when there will be a new context, and I can help you with that. But that will be more of an individual thing.
Okay.
Okay. But I think you did a lot right in terms of bringing your awareness to the situation at the time, and, standing your ground with the big digs that he got in, on you at the end. And so the trick is disengaging maybe sooner, as hard as that is. That would be my hunch. But this is just hard. So give yourself some grace. Like, this is hard. You're in uncharted territory. And I'm going to turn it over and see what other people have to say, because I know you're not alone in this. And especially with that question around, how do I do it differently? How do I just ask a question or make a request without it being heard through those old lenses? And part of that answer is it really just does take time, but there's also probably specific strategies that we can do. Okay. Aside from disengaging, because you did explain to him what your intention was.
And I think I always have, but he never seems to care about that. So I didn't know if it's the way I do it or what. Like, he interprets my explaining things as me defending myself, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's usually I'm trying to
It's
like
like you're-
de-escalate whatever, response I'm getting out of him by explaining, this is a reasonable question based on blah, 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 or something, but
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
usually doesn't de-escalate him. The more I talk,
Mhm.
the worse things get. So maybe that's been typically.
One thought I had, this is my last thought, and then I'll turn it over. But one thought I had is that you could, a different way of saying that would just be like, let me know when you're planning on sending that thing over,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good
so that
idea.
I can adjust my expectations. So you're still, you're giving him the power, and that might feel different, because it's not, I don't know, just that might feel different. Like, hey, let me know when you're planning on sending that over so that I can gauge myself accordingly.
So I can watch for it. or
That might
whatever.
feel news story.
Yeah, that sounds better. I mean,
Because then you'll know, like,
especially in
because if
hindsight.
you
I could.
say, I'll have it by the end of the week, and then it's not there by the end of the week, then you'll know, okay, maybe I need to take a different action because it hasn't come by the end of the week, right? But then at least you have a little bit of time to.
Okay, yeah, that's a good thought.
to give him the space to do that on his own time frame, unless you have a pre-arranged agreement on what that time frame is. Right? So, but I'll turn it over and see what other people think about that. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts and anything that resonated about that. Go ahead and unmute yourself
Hi,
and
Jen.
I'll add the list.
I mean, I would completely agree the part about disengaging maybe earlier, and that advice from Monica, because I've learned that I think too a little bit along the way, or just not getting. And now I can even catch some examples of like when he's trying to bring up the old story, or like use something that I said that like validates the old story. So I think you do just get better with it over time with practice. But yeah, just try not to get sucked into it, and don't, again, show up how you want to show up, and don't play into his issues.
So what do you do when he brings up old story stuff? Is there like a line?
I
that
actually
you
had an
have?
example of this not that long ago. And I brought it up. I said, are you just telling me that? I actually just kind of confronted it and said, are you just telling me this to validate, the story that you're telling yourself about how I don't hear your opinion? And he kind of got caught off guard a little. I could see like him thinking about it. And I said, if you recall, there was a couple texts that you had sent me saying this, I agree with you. This is the right thing we should do. So I know it's hard. Like, it was a conversation about telling our friends about our separation. And I said, I know it's hard. It's not easy on me either, but we're at this point where I do think this is the best for both of us. And we had both agreed on this. So don't turn this around and make it just a validation of,
Mhm.
trying to support basically the old story. So, but like I don't know if I would have caught him doing that if I hadn't been, I'm much farther, like I've been doing this program since, mid-July. So it does just take recognizing it with time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just on lesson 3.
Mhm. Yeah. That's a great example, Leslie. I love that. That's so great that you asked that question and called it out in that way, because it's such a great way of saying, getting them to recognize like maybe that's actually not what's going on here. Even though that's what your assumption is, that could change and that you're not accepting it. It's important to let them know that we're not accepting it,
Okay.
but it doesn't have to be a fight. Any other thoughts for Jen on that, you guys?
Jen, this is Mary, and I just want to share with you that Mark and I have been, I think, probably in just about every position that any of you can bring forward. We've been struggling with it the longest or something. Anyway, the whole thing about texting is it's very hard to pick up on the emotion of the text, and it's very easy to get defensive of the text. And there have been times when Mark and I have literally just been able to write to each other in texting or in a notebook, passing it back and forth at the table, because we would be so angry and we'd be so upset and we'd be so defensive and we'd be so hurt. And we just had to write it down. And sometimes it had a whole string of exclamation points after it. But when it's kind of a double-edged sword with texting. You can use it to your advantage to take out the emotion, but then you also have to understand when you use it, you've taken out the emotion. So whether it's supposed to be meant as a statement that's complimentary, or it's a statement that's defensive, or it's a statement that's broad, but we want to read it as narrow, that's what happens with texting. So
Yeah.
for me, I will just, like, if we have to get into a texting conversation and I've got the text right there and I see that he's jumped the track, or he's changed the topic altogether, or he's just completely ignored what I had just asked him, I will just say, no, I'll just reiterate what I just asked. I'll just say, look above, and copy it and post the text again. Hopefully your husband's not doing this while he's driving. So he is. but again, that's just some of the benefits and the dangers of texting is that you don't get to know the true emotion behind it. And it's easy to take things personally.
Yeah,
Agreed,
thank you.
agreed. It's a slippery
Yeah.
slope. It can work, like you say, it can work towards your advantage, but it can also work against you. So, but what's great about texting at least is that it is something that you can just
You can
block,
take your
you
time.
know,
You can take your time and think between responses better, at least for us, you know.
exactly, exactly.
And it's helpful for reflecting on the conversation because there's no question like this is how the conversation went, you know.
Yeah, right.
And in person, we never agree how the conversation went. And then by the time we've said it some 10 times, I can't remember what order things happened in, you know.
Right, right, right. Right. Well, I mean, I think you're asking all the right questions, Jen. Keep, thinking about more new ways that you can, like, what will be more disruptive? Where can you step out of the old patterns sooner? And just keep practicing that. Just keep practicing it. It just takes a lot of time but you're asking the right questions, and this is a great example because it's these moments that provide us the opportunity to do something different or go down that. It's the fork in the road that happens like all the time. The fork in the road presents itself at these random times,
Yeah.
and it's in these moments that the changes that we make are solidified or reinforced and made, right? So keep looking for those opportunities and be ready and keep doing the belief work because that will help you feel strong in
Yeah.
those times.
So it sounds like
Okay.
from what he said, I can focus on not appearing impatient and showing more trust and
Mhm.
in whatever capacity that I'm able to prioritizing him, but I don't know how to do that one because I think what he's thinking of is not exactly my thinking,
Yeah. So if you were if it was gonna be more along those lines, it would sound something like, I'm sure you're gonna do it, and I have no doubt about that. But just let me know what your time frame is so that I can plan accordingly. There, you're conveying trust.
Yeah.
You're going with the flow, but you're still seeking information.
Or if I had just said, oh, thank you for taking pictures of that document. It doesn't look like I've gotten it yet, when you'll get around to sending it to me or something like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
if I
would you be
started-
able to
if I-
send it to me tonight? Or would you be able to send it to me by tomorrow morning, just so that, because I was planning on X, Y, Z. And it's just a question then, right? And it's, yeah. But
Yeah.
the way that we frame something is really important too. You can usually say anything you want if you have the right framework.
Right. My attitude at the time was not one trying to focus on gratitude for his help.
Right, you were
know.
already frustrated.
I was already, and I was like
Mhm.
in a hurry to get the message to him only because I'm like, oh, he's going to ignore me any minute here because that's what seems like happens. So,
Right. So it came from that place of like, I'm being ignored, and so it's hard to not conflate those two things when the logistical thing, like one thing becomes, how one thing is happening is then bleeding into how we handle another thing. So try to keep them separate as much as you can. All
Yeah.
right. But
yes, thank
hang
you
in
for all
there
the advice.
and reach out if you need support. If anything like that comes up again, okay, in the Facebook group.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Jen. All right, we're going to move on to Leslie, you're next.
Awesome. So a win. Hi.
Yeah.
Sunday, which was the day we told our kids, went actually really as well as I think it probably could have gone. So I'm very proud of how I think I put that in the little brag post, how I showed up. I was
How did you
actually
show
really
up?
calm through the whole, I had thought about, we had time where we'd sent our kids to friends. So we had like a few hours just ourselves to kind of talk through things and how we wanted the conversation to go and kind of solidify the schedule. So I had really thought about like what I wanted the schedule to look like what I felt like I needed and could handle. And kind of propose that. Obviously, let him, have his thoughts as well, because there was very specific things that we have to assign. Okay, who's doing this pickup? Who's doing, this practice, whatever, who wants this? But I pretty much got everything that I had proposed from it, like him, coming back early one morning to take the kids to school. So at least, and I'm sleeping somewhere else one night a week. I didn't really want to do it more than that right now. And then we are going to do like a family dinner on Sunday where he would stay like till the kids go, right, like help with bedtime, kind of the same thing like Jen was saying. But so it felt good. It felt good initially. And I think and then when we actually had the conversation, he was almost with them almost getting a little bit more emotional, like right before it was supposed to happen. I had been pretty emotional the week prior and had cried, kind of cried even to him about it. So I don't know if I just worked through it in my head, because it would almost felt like kind of numb a little, but I mean, not numb. I mean, I obviously cared about what was going on, but I don't know. It's just
But you
really
had already been processing all of that.
yeah. So I don't know. It went okay, I think.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Good.
So I couldn't ask
That
for anything
sounds
else.
really,
but
really healthy.
yeah, kind of. I don't know. But I guess my one question is, so I'm getting practice with holding boundaries a little bit, like what we had agreed upon, because it was kind of funny. So then like just Tuesday. So not even like 2 days since we kind of talked about it, or 3 days later. He was like, I don't feel like I'm seeing Colton, who's our youngest. He's like, I don't feel like I'm getting enough time with him. And again, we haven't even like done a full week in this. I hadn't even, gone away Friday. And I was like, okay, well, I hear what you're saying. And he was almost making it sound like he wants another night with them. And I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to go sleep somewhere else. And I said, and I know we agreed that the kids shouldn't go to the condo where you're at, like while we're in this unsure limbo phase, like, cause we don't really still know what which way we're going to go. And he totally agreed that. And then he was like, well, why not? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we just talked about that. So, I mean, I was getting to the point where I was probably going to say something that I was going to regret. And I said, I don't want to do that. So let's just talk, like, let's see how the next 2 weeks go. And he'd already asked for even like next Friday, he's going to be over with them. I'm going to do something else, but I'll be back like after they go to bed. Right. So he's not going to spend the night, but he still basically has the whole evening with them. So I'm trying not to use the reason of like, but maybe I should try not to use the reason of you decided this is what you wanted, to step away and have a trial separation. I just don't know. Am I in this place now where it's like, should I be caring still so much about we're as a team trying to work this out when I don't feel like,
that you're, yeah, right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's such a great question, because you're not, in a way, like the decision that he's made puts you in a place where you're not really a we, but you are still trying to co-parent. And so I think what you did is right in terms of saying, well, just see how it goes and we can revisit that. But I think it's okay for you to just stand firm on what it is that you want. And then if what he wants is really different and you're at odds, then you can maybe look at mediation, or you can get somebody's outside opinion on that and see what makes most sense. But it's not up to you to be thinking about what works best for him at the same time. It's okay for you to say, I got to think about what I think is best for the kids and for me right now. And he's going to do the same. And then with those potentially competing agendas, we can come to the table and have a healthy negotiation. But you don't have to change your agenda. You know what I mean? Like to be like where you're putting him above you.
Okay.
So if you're not comfortable, that's enough of a reason. Enough of a reason is I'm just not comfortable sleeping somewhere else away from my young kids as a mom. Like as a mom, I feel like I want to be.
Yeah. And I mean, he kind of brought up, well, if this does go the way of permanent separation, like it'd be 50-50. And I understand that, like, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, because he loves the kids. My kids love
Mhm.
him. It's not like I don't agree with that, but I don't feel like for the next, 4 weeks, it's really hurting my youngest. Like, I don't think it's having a massive impact on his long-term, you
Mm-mm.
know,
Mm-mm. No,
um, perception of
no,
him and the relationship with his father. So I, yeah, I think it's just, we'll see,
because
but
it's just a limbo time. You're just living the question right now,
yeah,
and it's not like you are in that place where you're going 50-50. That's not what you agreed on. So I think it's
right.
okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's
So
helpful.
you have another conversation following up on that?
Well, we will have to, again, we're kind of taking, even though we figured out sort of the set schedule, which is good, there's always like, we'll look at the more minutia details of practices and stuff like that,
Mhm.
probably not this week, the next weekend.
Mhm.
And so we're sort of taking that a little bit 2 weeks at a time, but then we did talk about end of February, having more of a bigger conversation,
Mhm.
just about where we both stand, what we want, what we see,
Mhm. Mhm.
the future looking, like.
Yeah.
So I do need to get another one-on-one with you because I think I'm definitely asking some bigger questions too to myself, and how to
Yeah.
kind of prepare for that too eventually. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, one step at a time, one day at a
Yeah, I'm not
time.
worried about that one yet.
Good. That's so good. I mean, I'm really impressed at how you've handled this whole thing. It's so like hard. It's uncharted territory. It's not even what you wanted. And it's like, how do you make that work in a way that's best for the family and for the kids in spite of that? It's really hard to put your life energy towards something that you didn't really want,
Right.
and that takes us a lot of maturity, I think, and faith
Yeah.
and strength.
One thing I have noticed though, the energy in the house is different. I think just with all the shit he was going through personally too, the energy is different.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Mhm. It feels lighter around the house now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
I
great.
bet.
Yeah. So we'll see, but,
That's interesting, yeah.
yeah. And then
Not
I
too
did
bad.
have to, like, I had one logistical question. I was looking back
Mhm.
at lesson 8, lesson 9. Are there downloads for those? Because I don't know. They're either not popping up. I can
Yeah,
see the
there should
downloads.
be.
I can see the downloads for in like earlier lessons.
Mhm.
But 8
There
and
should
9,
be.
I just
Okay,
keep forgetting to post in the Facebook group and ask that.
okay. Okay, I'll look into that. And did you have another question too?
No,
You
that
said you
was
had
it.
okay. Um,
I'm gonna have to jump
okay.
off in 5 minutes anyway. So yeah.
Well, let me turn it over then and see if other people have thoughts for Leslie. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you do. And then we'll move on to Sarah.
Good job, Leslie. It's Marlene.
Thanks, Marlene.
I'm proud of you. That's a huge accomplishment. I do have a question for you because my neighbors are separated as well. And one of the things that they were able to work out, say I have 4 kids, is he chose to leave, but 2 days a week, she goes to his condo, his apartment,
And that
and
could be an
stays. And
option.
then
I haven't
Yeah.
gone there yet, but you're right. Like if I do feel like eventually, okay, I'll do one more night or something like that. Cause it is close. My sister's is even a little bit further and I've been going to her place, and I'm okay with that. It's actually kind of nice. I am actually enjoying the time with my sister and stuff like that one night a week. But that could be an option too. I just have to decide if I'm comfortable with that yet, and I don't know how I'm not sure how I feel about it yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just a thought,
But yeah, that's it.
'cause,
Yeah, we have talked about that.
Yeah.
So thank you for the
when
thought.
living is so expensive, trying to figure it out what works best. And the only thing that I could say that she told me was that she liked it and it was good because there was similar, if one of the kids was sick, she could take them
Mm.
to the other place where they're already had been there, because they've been separated for a while, but just a thought,
Okay.
anything to make it better for the kids, but still for us to have our boundaries, for sure. But
Yeah,
good
that's the
job.
trick.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, well, stay strong, Leslie. Thanks for coming on today and updating us. Good luck with the next conversation. I look forward to hearing how that goes. And just reach out to me via email or text if you want, and we'll set up the next one-on-one. Okay? All right, see you later. All right, you guys, we're gonna move on to Sarah.
I just one comment for Leslie. Leslie, keep clearing that energy and that positive space for you, and that'll make a big difference. And I don't know, I don't know, made me happy to hear that you just kind of felt a lightness coming, and that's a great thing, and good for you. I talked with Monica yesterday, so we went through a lot of stuff in a good place. I think what our positive thing is Pat and I kind of are starting this new little food diet thing. It's not really a diet, but it's kind of fun, and we're doing it together, and just something interesting. Just we're so bored here in this COVID thing anyway. So so we're getting along. I think every once in a while, I'm just really realizing in the process that I have to be strong in what I'm thinking and not going down those old roads. And kind of what highlighted yesterday in my chat with Monica was practicing the feedback wheel, and not just doing the lesson, but I need to be practicing more and making it more of a routine and a habit. So I'm strong with it. And that could be good for you, Jennifer, just getting that confidence, and some of it is just for me, letting go of my old tapes. They're so stuck in me. But I want to be a new person. So I have to keep trying to get that out. So, and it's not always, and Monica, like your comment yesterday about asking Pat, like, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? Okay, I trust that you would tell me how you're thinking and feeling, and then I could move on. So, kind of
planting
letting,
that seed.
yeah, kind of just letting go and not hanging on to negative, or going back to old patterns. So that's kind of where I want to focus, like my time left in the group and everything, and finishing the lessons, and just really making habits out of some of this good stuff.
It's really great. I'm glad you guys have something that you're working on together, like just making meals together or doing anything together. Like just the simplest, most mundane things can be a great place for connection and feeling like you're on the same team and finding some kind of shared experience or shared meaning in your day.
Yeah.
Because I know that especially when you had those differing schedules, that was really a challenge. So it doesn't have to be a big thing, right? Like a big life change or like where we're moving or selling the house. It can just be meal plans. Like,
Yeah.
I love that.
And kind of being honest too, like we did Pat's the one who initiated, like we were doing our will and with the charity we wanted. So he sat down and then we sat down together. So it's kind of like making priorities and sticking to them. And we're both kind of mellow. Well, we could do it later, but we need to be more focused, I think and that's a challenge, I think, for both of us when we have a lot of time, but and I can ask him of my requests and what I need. So I just need to be stronger about that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and what do you feel like you need to be stronger about?
I guess it would be like we were talking, I don't know, like again, the driving thing where he snapped at me because I was giving him directions, and just kind of I'd say, so we've been watching Schitt's Creek, and we said our driving or my thing would be like eat rust or drink rust. I don't know. There was one character in there, like just to kind of be like a little dig, like you were just being a jerk. So
Mhm,
catch yourself or something like that. Like
mhm. Yeah,
I like how, like again, in our call yesterday
to
where
be
you,
lighthearted,
yes,
just
but
make a
just being
joke.
like, yeah, like you're being a jerk. Come on. And then just kind of getting, that's those are old patterns and they're hard to break.
Mhm. Yeah.
But just
So
kind of
maybe
being
just look for
honest.
the opportunities, and maybe you could sort of look at this next week as I'm going to look for those opportunities to, if it feels like he's holding on to something and I ask him and he doesn't answer me, that I will take him at face value and assume nothing is wrong.
Right.
And I'll plant that seed that he'll tell me when he's ready. And in the meantime, I won't carry it because it's not mine.
Right.
Now, if you're still left over with like disconnection because he is actually stonewalling you and he's just not admitting it, then you can do your own feedback wheel. But to
Right.
start with that place of like, I'm just going to take that at face value and look for those opportunities. And then if there's any belief work you need to do to support that, like, like just knowing that you're okay, even if somebody did have a disproportionate reaction, or even if somebody was triggered, that doesn't mean that you have to be the one to fix it. And feeling okay and trusting of the fact that you're loved, trusting in the connection that is there, trusting in that, your well-being and your safety.
Right.
I think on some level it feels really unsafe. Like in that, if I feel like there's something wrong, it feels really unsafe. And so that's why you want him to share that. But if you know deeply, like we're okay no matter what, and you really feel that internally, I think everything will lighten up for
Yeah.
you internally.
Right.
And he might even feel even more safe sharing. Who knows?
Right.
That's what I'll be talking to him about that too.
Yeah. I think kind of when you talk yourself for so long, you start to believe it and you lose trust. And then
Mhm.
so now the task at hand really is to new stories and new trust and
Mhm.
reconnecting. Like that's what I need to work on. That's the next phase. So
You're ready.
we'll getting there.
Yeah. No, I think you are. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's what I want, and I think so they got to work on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
New
And
stories.
it is scary. It's scary, but just take the risk. Just be like,
Yeah.
what's the worst thing that can happen to me if I go out on a limb here right now and broach this topic or ask this question or surrender that and be like, okay, I trust you'll tell me if something's bothering you. And
Right.
in the meantime, I'm going to assume all is well between us. And when things are well between you, how do you show up? And
Right.
you can just do that. And sometimes just that first action where that's not supported by the feelings is hard. But then once you take that action, then the feelings follow.
Right. I think that's another thing that I realized this week is how am I showing up? And it's not necessarily it's not my job to be accountable for how Pat's showing up. That's his job.
Mhm.
How I'm
Right.
showing up is my job. So
Yep.
that's the job I need to focus on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Just going deeper with that same theme,
Hmm.
layer after layer. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have his stuff that he has to work on in the
Right.
comfort zone that he has to leave, but that's where all your power is. So
Right.
take the leap. That would be my thought for you, and go back to those belief statements that I sent you and really go into the visualizing and the feeling of those. Just pick one a day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
Anything else? Is there anything else I can support you on today?
no, it feels good. I need to, going back to the lessons and really letting him sink in and practicing. Like I need to practice my feedback wheel for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
changing, like what everyone's talking about, boundaries, that, there's different ways, but boundary,
Mhm.
just showing up is a boundary, showing up the way you want to be and holding tight to what you believe and really working on changing those old thoughts.
Yep. It takes just a lot of repetition.
Yep.
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 Like a workout for your mind.
Yes. A lot of self hugs.
Exactly. Lots of compassion for yourself also along this journey. Well, I'll turn it over then. If anybody has any thoughts or words of encouragement for Sarah, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I'll look forward to hearing how it goes, okay? Reach out if you have a feedback wheel that you want to do between now and next week.
Okay,
Send it to me and let me know, like, this is what I want to say, but I'm nervous about X, Y, Z, and I can help you with it. But just to break the ice on that will be so important.
great. I will. Thank you.
All right, I'm turning it over now to others if anybody has any thoughts. All right, if no other thoughts, I'll move on to Tatiana and then Mary after that. Tatiana, are you still with us? Did she pop off? Oh, I don't see her on right now. Okay, well, I assume that she'll be back. Let's move on then to Mary.
I would have to unmute myself.
Yes, there we go.
Yes, there we go. Let's see, celebration,
Mhm. Yep.
learning.
Going well.
Learning. Something I really appreciated. I had a one-on-one with Monica this morning. And as much as I'm trying to hold my boundaries and not catapult into the old pattern, I need to explain what I'm doing instead of, so that it doesn't come across as a silent treatment or a punishment, but it comes across as I'm staying in my lane and I don't have a turn signal on. So
Mhm. Yeah, I like that.
I'm just staying in my lane. So we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, and then when there's something so nice about it, it's like a disclaimer, then you can feel more relaxed staying in your lane because you know it's been explained, it's been set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's pattern interrupt, it's not punitive, but it's good for everyone.
Correct.
And you've been really good about that. You have been practicing all kinds of different ways of not filling the gap and staying in your lane, as hard as that is. Do you have any celebrations around that in particular?
Well, I want to celebrate the fact that I didn't imagine it and I didn't exaggerate it. I didn't dramatize it. I just set my timer on my clock for any time that he was willing to open up and talk about something besides peripheral news. And I did that. And I got a whole 1 minute and 28 seconds out of him in a 15-hour period. And it may sound small as far as my attitude or but I just wanted to see. I just needed to see for myself. Maybe I'm being oversensitive. Maybe he does say more and I'm just not picking it up. I don't think he's saying more. So it was just kind of a validation to me that I'm not crazy and that my desires and my needs are not being met. And it just gives me a greater awareness of what I need to do for myself, how I need to speak up for myself, and how I need to stay firm with my boundaries, because it was very tempting to, and we were together most of the day in the house. It was very tempting to start digging, like, is there something wrong? Do you want to talk about something? But that always ends up with Mary giving a lecture. Mary pouring out her heart and him sitting there going, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, and then it's like, I don't want, I'm done. I'm done with that game. And that it's a monologue. And I always end up saying, well, we're not having a dialogue, we're having a monologue. So I may as well just be quiet. And then we sit and stare at each other until somebody breaks the silence, and it's usually not him. And I was like, I'm not. So I could have gone there yesterday and really shared but I just felt like, you know what? He didn't ask. He didn't I mean, it's not like he didn't ask. It's like he doesn't seem to want to know.
Mm.
So I'll
Well, and
just,
it's so scary too, to stop and just see what would happen if I didn't do all of this emotional labor and all of the communicating and all of the figuring this out and sharing and strategizing. Like once you stop doing all that work, because you're like, I want a dialogue, this isn't a dialogue, so I'm not going to participate because it's not in service of my vision. That is terrifying when you pull back and then you just see what is without my interference. And it's disappointing. It's
yeah,
disappointing. Validating too, though, to realize this is why we're here, right? And to like get some strength around knowing it almost gets worse before it gets better, because it's making anyone in this process, not just you, Mary, but really looking at what is first,
right.
looking at the truth of what is really happening or not happening, and just the pain of that first, and leaving that space for something better to fill it in the future. But in the meantime, it's painful to live in that, but it's very powerful to
But
be
it's
like, okay, I'm not going to fill it.
and it used to be painful, but being in this program and re-listening to some of the stuff, even in lesson 1, like any kind of change is better. Any
Mhm,
anytime, whether it feels bad or good or scary or whatever, that means it's still alive, and that means
yes.
it's
Mhm.
better. It's going to be better. So I'm just going to be more patient.
Good. It definitely takes patience. But what's good about this, Mary, is that you're going to be the one that's working less. Your work is going to be in not working. Your work is going to be in standing still and allowing and observing and feeling, and all in your lane. Like that is going to be the work for you, which is actually not that hard. Like it's not that much work. Like I feel like compared to what Mark is going to be having to learn and do, it's going to be more of climbing a mountain, you know, and I know he can do it because he has the the determination. And I just think that once somebody wants something bad enough, they will find a way, even if it's really uncomfortable. But I like what you said, and I think it's important to highlight that just for everyone on the call, like on live today, or people listening to the recording, which is that um, any change is good, even if it doesn't feel good. Like positive change doesn't always feel good. It can be uncomfortable, or it can just be that emptiness, or it can be boredom. But as long as it's a disruption, you're heading in the right direction.
Yep.
So I like your attitude, Mary. And you seem really quite relaxed about the whole thing, which is wonderful.
Well,
Do you feel that way?
I have done a lot of work. I have done a lot of work. I've gone to retreats, I've gone to seminars, I've done readings. I mean, I'm like, I don't feel challenged to like there's going to be this big directional change. My biggest challenge is just staying in my lane and not doting, pampering, enabling the behaviors that, one of his favorite phrases is, who does it benefit? And so I
Mm,
throw that back to him. Who does it benefit with you keeping quiet? It must benefit
mm,
you to keep doing it. So I'll be in the
mm.
other room. Bye. I just am like, and
Yeah, when you're ready to talk, I'll be around. Just, you can find, where to find me. And in the meantime, I'm going to go focus on something that I'm getting more from. That's
right,
fair. That's
right.
fair.
And I know I had a very tearful first phone call on this group. And even when we had our initial interview with Malia, it's like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do him. He's got to do
No.
him. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna do, and
Mm-hmm.
I am confident that that's gonna be good.
Amazing. Good for you, Mary.
Thank you.
It's a different kind of warrior. It's a different kind of fight, what you're doing.
And it's a different kind of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable stepping back because Monica, he's all yours.
Yeah, it's true. It feels good to know that, like, you are in a safe place to stand still and allow. Because as long as you see that he's coming to the sessions and doing the lessons and all of that good stuff, you're just in a really good position where you can just observe and be like, let's see what happens. Right?
And I have not, like,
We'll
this
see.
whole journey is, so far, we're completely independent. I didn't go to wake him up and say, are you going to join the phone call? It's like, he gets the email. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. And that may sound like withdrawal or tit for tat, but it's like, no, I need him to do it for him as I'm doing it for me. And we'll see where we end up.
Exactly. We'll see where the chips fall, right?
Right.
Wonderful. Well, keep your faith, connect to your vision. I love that you are celebrating and engaging in the group, and just keep up the good work.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to turn it over and see if anybody has any thoughts for Mary. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you do. And then we'll move on to who's next.
Mary, right on. Way to go. I was on your first call, so I remember. It's hard, and I love that saying, staying in your lane and you don't have your turn signal on. I need to practice that one myself, for sure. But
Yeah, it's so much harder than it sounds.
yeah, for sure. And the
All
who
right.
does it, that's a really good statement too. Way to go.
Thanks, Marlene. Any other comments? Any other comments from Mary? Otherwise, we'll move on to Ashley. Okay, Ashley. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
How's the start of second semester for you so far?
It's going well. It's going really well. And I was meditating over it last night because I just do, well, I don't know if this is like good or bad, but I was like, okay, classes end April 22nd. Finals will be over in early to mid-May. So I only have to make it like 3.5 more months. So yeah, because it's February, March, April.
Yeah,
And half
that
of
seems
May.
so much more manageable.
Yeah, so I am actually kind of thinking of it like that because I'm like, I said something to Graham last night too. I'm like, you're in your second week and I do feel like this semester is going a lot better than last because I don't know, like, I mean, he's working really hard. He's doing the same thing that he has always been doing, but I'm like reading a lot more and just like really being okay with being by myself, which I have just realized I've just never been by myself or okay with being by myself in my life. So moving in July just was like a really big transition for me that taught me a lot about how uncomfortable I am with just like being alone and like filling my time. And internalizing that and being like, oh my God, he's not spending enough time with me was obviously not helpful. So I'm actually like really enjoying my alone time at this point. And
that's huge. Oh my goodness.
yeah, I'm really enjoying my alone time. I'm growing some plants, I'm reading. I have like this bath, like a bath once a week or twice a week that I take in this like big tub that we have, going on some walks. So yeah, so I've been really allowing myself to slow down. So it's definitely better so far.
Good for you. Where do you feel like you made that change? Like, how did that happen where you realized, oh, I'm actually enjoying my time alone? What's the change?
Well, so I think the change came when we were on winter break for his school because I was you know, after the move and after the transition, because I felt alone, I felt really lonely and I felt really emotionally disconnected to him. And then I questioned like our relationship and everything, because I was just like, I feel bad, you know. But then during the winter break, when we really like reconnected and spent a lot of time together, I was like, oh my God, like it was a reminder that it wasn't like we can still have emotional connection even when he's really busy in school.
Mhm.
It wasn't something that was missing in our relationship, but it was, I was thinking that it was,
Mm.
but it really wasn't. And you know, I was like, oh my God, he's not spending enough time with me, even though I want him to go to school and I want him to get his law degree and I like want him to like be successful in it. And I appreciate that he's ambitious. It's like one of the things that I love about him. So it wasn't congruent with like our bigger life dreams and our relationship dreams. And so I was like, what is going on? But having the proof
Mhm.
over the winter months like helped me to realize that like it's not him being like it's not him personally being like, I don't want to spend time with you. It's him being like, I'm prioritizing my studying and my test taking and my reading because I have to right now, but that's not the same as like spending time with you or not. It's not like I love you less or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to
Yeah.
have that like reminder, like I had to have that proof.
Mhm. Do you
And
mean
so
like in
now
terms of the
going,
connection that you had with him, like during the break?
yes,
So it was a
yeah,
remembering.
like,
So part of it is a change in perspective, and
mm,
part of it is also that you did get reinforced with like, you know, you got your well filled up a little bit in a way, like, oh,
mhm,
this is here for me. This is real. Like, it's just that we don't get to, you know, experience it to the degree that we want to during stressful work times or stressful school times. But it was like coming to
right.
the present and remembering the foundation of the connection is there. Does that, once that's internalized, I feel like it is easier. The difference between people that can spend time alone and feel good and the people that can't is that sense of I'm already connected. I'm already connected
Exactly.
to people, even if they're not in front of me right now, I feel a deep sense of connection to others. And so with that deep sense of connection to others, I can enjoy puttering around my house or listening to music or
Yeah.
working on something else. I don't have to interact with people. But it sounds like that helped you so much.
Yeah, that helps me so much. And because when I'm operating from an when I feel emotionally connected and I operate from that place, it's like we do have like, it is like a different relationship, you know, and the way that I ask for things or request things is so much like clearer and less angry than when I feel emotionally disconnected from him. But sometimes it's like I'm making up the emotional I mean, like I feel disconnected, but I think I'm like making up the emotional disconnection in my brain, kind of like like
Yeah.
last semester. Like I was like, oh, we're emotionally
Oh.
disconnected because he's reading, and I'm
Mm.
like I was like, he doesn't want to spend time with me, but it's like he was like, I do want to spend time with you. You really think I want to read until 2 a.m.? I don't want to read until 2 a.m. Like I really do want to spend time with you, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you don't prioritize me. But yeah, so now I feel better. Like something I noticed, this is another like example of what has helped is like on the weekends when I'm less busy, like I'm not in my work mode at my computer and like just like during the week we have our doors closed to where we work. And
Mhm.
that works fine during the week, but during the weekend, when his office is door is closed, I don't like it. Like I don't know why, but it makes me feel like really shut out because I'm not busy and I'm not like working or whatever. I don't have any meetings, but I'm still reading and I'm still like watching some TV and cooking, but I just don't like, I physically don't really like the door being closed from his office. But like, I understand that he likes the door closed because he's doing his stuff. So I was like, hey, do you think like I could just keep the door cracked open? Like today, and he has his noise canceling headphones on, so I know he can't hear anything anyway. But I was like, it really, it makes me still feel like not closed off. And he was like, yeah, sure. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
nice.
And I kept it open, like I just kept it open a crack, and it like literally just felt, I just didn't feel so like alone.
I get it. I totally get that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love that you just asked him of that.
Yeah.
That's so strong, because instead of going into that place of the old story and what that might mean about if there's any discrepancy or emotional disconnection, instead you just realize this is how it makes me feel. Maybe I could ask him, because it'll help you out and it won't hurt him. So why wouldn't he say yes to that?
Right.
That's really-
Exactly.
I feel like that's a huge celebration too for you, Ashley, because a lot of times I think maybe you don't want to have to ask for things like that.
No, I don't. Like I feel like it's like, I'm like, he should know how, like, closing me out that is, and he should cater towards me to make me feel included, and I shouldn't have to ask. And so yeah, it was good. Like I was like, after that whole, I told you guys about that thing about the tea on the couch, like me having to ask for the tea, that really shifted my perspective too. Cause I was like, he really was like, I just don't know. Like, I really don't know what you want. And I really wanted, he's like, I really want to do the things that you want, but I don't know what they are. And so that was really helpful. Yeah, that's been really helpful.
Yeah. So you've just been not personalizing things as much.
Yeah, I've been not personalizing things as much. And even like, I wanted to say one other thing, but I forgot what that one is. But then this third thing I wanted to mention was even like with the asking of requests, like I was like, hey, can you scoop the litter? It always comes back to these like stupid freaking household chores. It's so annoying. I'm like, hey, can you scoop the litter? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it in a little bit. I'm like, oh wait, no, actually, it was something else. I forget. It was like something, but I asked him to do something. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then like he didn't do it. And I really was like not emotional about it. I was like, hey, do you think you could do that like tonight? Like I asked him like 5 hours later. And I was like, it's really bothering me, like the smell of the litter or something like that. So that was good. But yeah, I just noticed that when I had like this like little dynamic, which what I mean by that is like our relationship, but like our dynamic is like, he really needs like clear and concise and like calm, like not like instructions, but like direction or requests.
Yeah.
And that part has been like very hard for me to cultivate, but I'm getting what I want when I cultivate it. Like when I really work to cultivate it, I'm like, oh, this is much better received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because he does really want to please, and he does want to know like, well, what can I do? Because that's power. It's power when you're given the tool or the information that can make you be successful. And you're just giving him the information that he needs to be successful so that you can, that you can get what you want. Because it's not easy to live with someone. It's not easy to live in the same space when both people are home all the time and doing different things. And, there's a lot of differences in how to run a household, or what the threshold is for litter. What is the threshold for when to take out the garbage? What is the threshold for dishes in the sink? Like these are all things that come up that are different between two people. And that's the hard part of living with another person, because you're not the same person.
Right.
And so the best way is just to communicate that. So I'm so glad that you're doing that. Is there anything that you were able to do from a belief standpoint that allowed you to do that? Like what, because I know that it is hard to let go of that, but they should just know, he should know, or she should just know. I know that is strong, not just in you, but in a lot of people. And I wonder if that has been less, or if you've been able to, or if it's still there, but you're just not being guided by it as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like two parts to the belief system, which the first is that like I went into those scenarios thinking he does want to like help me, and he does want to like do things for me, right? So like, are you like the whole idea of like, oh my God, he should just know, that belief is that deeper belief is like, oh, well, he should want to take care of me and know how to do it. Right. So when I was operating from a place of like going into asking these questions of like, okay, he does want to help me and he does want to do these things for me, then it's like just telling him or asking rather than like just assuming that he already knows and he's just not doing it because he's like lazy or he doesn't care about me.
Right.
So yeah, so
Right.
so that first part of that belief system, what was the second thing? I don't know what this, I should like write these things down because I forgot to, like, this is the second thing that I forgot, but
It'll come back to you at some point.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, wants to help me. And then, oh, the second part was like, of course, this is just like the biggest thing is just the idea that like I'm emotionally connected to him no matter what. Like I'm getting the factors of connection throughout my day so that I don't have to make up in my mind that I'm not emotionally connected to him if he's busy. And so what I mean by that is like the stuff that I've worked on, like asking him if we can have dinner together every night or asking if we can take a couple hours on the weekend together, like he meets. So it's like I have the proof. So I want to operate from that. And I want to operate with the belief of just going into it like we are emotionally connected. He does want to help me. So, hey, can you grab me this? Or can you cook dinner tonight instead of me? Or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
right.
those two belief statements.
That's huge. Knowing that, yes, we are emotionally connected. And so therefore I can ask this because the assumption is if he can, he will, right? Like that's a great assumption to come into. It makes it so much easier to come forward with those requests. It feels,
Right.
I mean, but I think it just brings up vulnerability too. A lot of people feel that way when they have to make a request. It's like, well, then what if they don't meet my need? Or what if they don't say yes? Or what do I look like I'm needy because I'm the one that asked? You know, if I have to ask, then that makes me look like I need more than they do. But the truth is that everybody needs that attachment. And it's just a matter of how, you know, the threshold personally, and also the degree to which somebody feels comfortable being able to share that. And so I think that's really powerful. And like, yeah, you seem really good. Have you had any, well, let me ask you this. Do you have anything that you need coaching on? Because what I was going to say is you seem really good. Like you've really internalized a lot of the insights that you've had, and you've made a lot of shifts, and it seems like things are pretty good. Do you feel that too? Do you feel like there's been a shift in the frequency of intense negative emotions that come up sometimes when that gets activated?
Yeah, I mean, I feel 100% like there's been a shift, like between Graham and I, in our relationship and in my intense negative emotions. Yes, I definitely do. And like, we definitely have like a lightness about our relationship where like, it's, you know, like if you're in a fight with your partner, like you walk into the room and it's like, you might like look away, like it's kind of heavy energy and like, you're like don't even make eye contact, you know, it's like not like that. It's like very light and like we smile at each other, even if like I'm on a call or he's on a call, but it's just like it feels like the air is more clear.
Beautiful. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
ease, sounds like.
Yeah. And, you know, I still catch myself like you said, if you make the request and they don't like, you know, do it or whatever, like there was this one situation where one of like our semester goals is to do something for like an hour on the weekends together, like away from the home. And so we've been driving around like looking at properties. And so what I'll do is like make a map of where we're going to drive and then like give them a time frame. And I really love it because I like love, you know, properties and real estate and architecture and all that kind of stuff. So like a couple Saturdays, this happened actually like twice. Like I could tell, like I was like, okay, we're going to go. I have this plan and it's going to be like 2 hours and then we're going to be back. And I could like see in his face, he's like, because he's just like he is an introvert. Like it's hard for him to just like spontaneously jump in the car and go for a drive. Like it's just like not his natural state, you know. And it's for me, I'm like, let's just drive to like a nearby city and go get tacos, you know. But so I was feeling kind of like disappointed, like because I could see it on his face, and I was like, so I was like, okay, do you think that that's like possible for you today? Or are you thinking like maybe you really need to get the reading done? Like maybe today is not a good day to do that. He's like, so he has to like think about it. I have to like give him time to like think about it too. But I could feel my like I was getting upset thinking that he wouldn't want to go do this like thing with me that I want to really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happened then? What happened at that point? Did he ever?
Well, so he was like, no. And he was like, I do really want to go. And I was like, okay. So it was good because he said that. And then I was like, okay, so, you know, do you just have like a lot to do? And he's like, yeah, I have a lot to do. And I said, you know that, because I took it like this personally. I was like, you know that I know that you have a lot to do. So when I'm like preparing this little like 1 to 2 hour excursion, it's like with keeping in mind that like you have a lot to do and I'm keeping those boundaries really, really strict so that you don't feel overextended. But then I'm still getting a little bit of like alone time with you during the weekend. So then it's like so fulfilling to me. And you know, and so
that's beautiful. I mean, just articulating that to him and showing him how, in a way, you're saying, I have your back. Like, I have your back. I will hold those boundaries. I won't like ask for a finger and take the whole hand. Like, I will respect the time frame on that because I do know you are busy. But then it means so much to me. That's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, trust me, I'm always thinking about how you have a lot of work to do. And like, I really am I got like a little bit like testy. Like I was like, I'm very considerate of the time, you know. And then like a few days after that, when like something around that came up, he's like, oh, I know that you understand like how much work I have to do, but like I have to do this thing tonight and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But yeah, so just having that like conversation where he's like, I'm like, yeah, I have your back. I get it. But like, this is also something that like I need right now to just like feel like once a week leaving the house, feeling connected without school or work is like, I don't think that is like too much to ask.
It's not too much to ask.
I'm like, your law school buddies, like the 22-year-olds are out drinking and partying in the night. Like we can go drive around for an hour looking at houses. Like we don't do anything. We don't go anywhere. We don't go to dinner. We don't drink. We don't do anything. And like, we can drive around for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Like,
that's so fair. Yeah.
You know,
good for you because you advocated for yourself while also showing him and demonstrating and articulating that you hear him and honor him, like what his limits are. And you're proposing something that really is from the us place. It's a win-win. It's like, because the truth of the matter is that you can't just go for 3.5 months without any, you have to have something to look forward to in terms of your time together.
Yeah. Like a little bit, right?
Little injections of connection. And that's, you know, like the dinner or going out and looking at houses for an hour. That's totally awesome. So hopefully that sunk in for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he'll actually be grateful that you get him out of the house to go do something like that once a week.
Exactly. And I'm like, you're going to be more productive if you take a break. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You know?
I'm the same way where when I'm in work mode, I'll be like, I can't talk to anybody or stop to eat for 3 weeks. I have like, I'm one of those people and I have to have someone say to me, why don't you have to eat? Why don't we take a break? Let's walk, like go do something. I won't want to, but I will. And then I'm so glad that I did. But he might just not, he's not accessing that in that initial, the initiative for it himself, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't recognize the value of it or appreciate that it is important, even though it wasn't his idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So do you need coaching on anything or are you feeling like You got this,
I'm
or?
feeling pretty good. I think the only thing, I mean, you and I have talked about this like a few times now, but like I feel good in my relationship, but I do see patterns of like that anger outburst coming out like in work relationships. So I have been curious about, well, is that like primitive response that I sometimes have just diverting now to like another person and
Hmm.
like kind of just getting like accessing the core of that.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is like, I'll try to make this like really short because I know we're short on time, but like if I like, you and I have talked about me responding or reacting to certain personality types with like my sister's boyfriend or like my mom or like this coworker. And like I had another outburst thing at work that I'm just like not proud of. And I'm like, this is not aligned with who I want to be or who I am. But I just feel like I have to like get
Mm.
cut him at the
Mhm.
jugular. Like I feel really, really childlike and like a temper tantrum as a child. So I've been
Mm.
going into that feeling and I've been like thinking back to when I was a child and when I had temper tantrums, or if I didn't feel heard at school, I would kind of like lash out and my teachers would give me like poor remarks for self-control. I would like score poorly in that section. But I think it comes from that like unmet childhood need of like literally not being heard and not being seen and not being like listened to.
Mhm.
So yeah, so
so
I'm
valuable.
navigating that right now.
Mhm.
I'm writing about it and just like meditating on it and just like thinking about it. But I'm like, wow, I really want to just explore more. And I did speak to my sister about it. I was like, hey, were we not like listened to? And she's like, no. And I was like,
Mm.
really? And she's like, no, not at all. Mom and dad, if we said anything about our day, they would just divert the conversation to what was going on in their life. They wouldn't ask us about what was going on in our life. And I was like, really? And she's like, no. I was like, that's so funny how we have like two completely different perspectives of our childhood. But anyway, so that's kind of what I'm like, it's kind of like a bigger concept, but that's kind of what I'm working on now.
I see. Yeah. Well, gosh, it's such a core thing, like to be seen and heard, to not be seen and heard, right? Like if we're not seen and heard in
Right.
those developmental years, it really does feel like a matter of life or death. And so when that gets
Yeah.
activated in adulthood, we will go back to that survival, fight or flight thing. That's why you want to cut them off at the jugular. It's like, you're either gonna, it's a survival. It's like, I gotta win because otherwise it's just gonna be unbearable, or I will, what is the fear? Is it being invisible? Is it being, it's almost like death in a way, not consciously, but on a physiological level, to not be heard or seen or to be invisible is like death,
Right.
because we are wired for that attachment, and to be attuned to equals survival. And I know we've talked about this before. I wonder if you had a chance to look at that adaptive child exercise and have a conversation with that part of you and see what
Oh
came
my
up.
God,
in
I
it.
haven't. Still haven't done it.
Try
It's been
it and
2
see what
weeks and I
comes up
still
for
haven't.
you. That's okay.
Oh my
But
gosh,
why
I
wouldn't
have
you see if it would
resistance
help
to
you?
doing the exercise.
Oh, are you afraid of what might come up?
No, but like I haven't even been, I typically don't like forget about things. And like I write things down. I haven't, but like I'm realized whenever I like forget to do something, it's typically because I don't want to do it.
Oh,
And
okay.
but it's not a conscious thing. It's like I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's like I'm sure that there's a
No,
part of me that's like scared to go into it or something.
I get it. Totally. Yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
just good to be aware of, but I think it might help you a lot, because if that's really what you're looking at and saying that's kind of a core thing for me, something will come from that. And it might not be the end all be all, but something will come from that then you can take into something else. But I think
Right.
that's so important. And we don't want to just own that part of us. We don't want to just starve it or ignore it. We want to hear it and nurture it, but like in the sense of saying, I'm in control and I've got you, and you don't have to fight, and you don't have to be scared because I got you, right? And that part of
Right.
you that can talk that other part of you down, so that anytime you have that reaction where you're like, this is not who I want to be, that will get less and less and less once that relationship between the parts is better. So it's
Right.
really almost a relationship between the two parts of you. In a sense, it's reparenting. You could look at it like that too.
Okay. Yeah, I have it up right now. It's the 5 steps of the feeding your inner child process.
Yes, yes, exactly. And you can play around with that, but basically, and if anybody else listening is interested, let me know and I can share it with you. But it's basically, the idea is, and I know we've talked about the adaptive child and how we need to like put it in the back seat, like Terry Real says, and fasten it up and say, I've got the steering wheel, you're safe, please be quiet. But you're not throwing them out of the car. They're in the car where they're still in your life, but they're not driving. And I just love that metaphor so much. And this exercise helps you to kind of hear that person and see, like, what is this part of me trying to say? And how can I make this part of me my ally in a way, as opposed to just trying to completely disown it and hope to God it doesn't derail me next time. Because it will
Right.
just always rear its head, like when we least expect it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens too. It's like when you least expect it, and it's so embarrassing to me, and it's so but yeah, like I wouldn't mind it if it was like a red flag or like a little antenna that was like, telling me something. But it's the fact that like I can't, it's like literally like I cannot control like my temper tantrum. That's what it feels like. So that's what I want to just be able to like be like, okay, wow, that's coming up and that's like happening. So I either need to like take a few minutes for myself, or like ask them to call, I'll call them back, or like just because I like nothing good is said from that place ever.
Yeah, so are you aware of when it happens? Because that would be the best thing, is to have an awareness of what are the like antecedent signs. Like, is it like a racing heart? Is it like a feeling in your chest? Is it a certain thought that you're having? Is it a certain awareness of like you're noticing something, and once you start noticing that, it's just going to go down that road?
Game over.
What are the signs that you need to be aware of, where it's like, oh, I'm entering into the slippery slope territory, so now I need to disengage before I lose my power of choice?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm writing it down, power of choice. My heart beats so hard that it like feels like it's gonna come out of my chest, and like, I'm on video now, but like I know that my face like turns red, and like I get hot, like I have a sympathetic nervous system reaction. Like I'm like in fight or flight, like I am in fight or flight. But the most notable thing is like my heart is like, I feel like it's like vibrating my whole body.
Yeah, it almost feels like a trauma response, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And I'm like, whoa.
I have so much compassion for that. Like, please make sure that you are being empathetic towards yourself and giving yourself lots of like grace and understanding and empathy for that experience, because it is so hard. Like, and it isn't actually physiologically possible once you're in that state to be able to use your tools. So
no way.
It's okay to give yourself permission to be like, when that happens, I'm turning off my video, even if you have to say, oh, my camera's not working, like whatever.
Yeah.
Just turn off the camera, whatever you can do to calm yourself. Or say, oh, someone's knocking at the door, hang on just a second. Like, do whatever you have to do to disengage until your heart rate goes down. That's just maybe giving yourself permission. No matter where you are or what's happening, you always have the right to do that for yourself, because it's better for not just you, but for everyone.
Right. Literally,
So
it's better for everybody.
Act. It's not a selfish act.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I went hard on this person, and I had to like, I took her out at the knees. Like I went for it. It was not good. And then I had to call her and be like, I am so sorry. Like and she was like, you were rude. You were just like, she went back. She came for me too. And I was like, I absolutely agree with you. And I'm so sorry. And I'm really embarrassed. and I really value you, blah, blah, blah. It was like, like, oh my God. I'm like, why, God,
Good for you,
why?
Ashley. That is really, that's so good though. Like, that's so good that you did that. Like, that's amazing. Like that you at least were able to like fully own up to it, even though this is the last
Yeah.
person that you wanted to own up to that with.
Oh my God, the last person. And I was like, I felt hung over from it for
I
like
know who you're
about 3
talking about.
days.
I think it's the
Yeah.
person you were talking about before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh God. But I felt like hung over from it. And my other coworker called me. She's like, hey, are you okay? I was like, no, you know, and she's like a really brilliant therapist, but all she kept saying was like, I understand, and just give yourself compassion right now. She's like,
Yeah,
I'm Irish
totally.
too. I get it.
Yeah, and we're human beings, you know, like we're human beings. We all have things that just trigger us to no end, right? And so
Yeah, it
the
wasn't
best you can
good.
do, the best you can do is to own up to it and then go, what can I do differently to try to not let that happen again, right? And that's what you're doing.
Right.
You're doing the best
Yeah.
anybody can do in that situation.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, do that exercise and just let me know, send me an email. If it sucked, fine, it sucked. If you hated it, it's fine. I'm not going to take it personally. It was given to me by someone else. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'd love to just know that you did it. And then if there was anything that came from it, because if not, it will still give me ideas of how I can support you and where I might want to point you next. You know what I mean?
Okay, awesome. I'm going to do that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just give yourself afternoon. I don't know, listen to some good music, light some candles.
Oh yeah, I had to listen to spa music for like a solid week after that interaction because I was like, my nervous system was like so high for like literally 3 or 4 days after that. I was like, oh, come down.
I know that's so hard because it's so toxic in your body. It's so you feel, I know what you mean about that hangover. And then the regret, you
And
know.
regret.
Mm.
Oh God, it was so bad. But I'm gonna do that exercise.
Yeah. Okay. Hang in there. You're doing amazing though, really. You have so much to be proud of. So
Thank
much.
you.
I love how you're always willing to look inward and say, what is going on with me here?
Yeah.
Like that is such a superpower, and not everybody has, not everybody does that. So, oh, your cat behind you, it looks funny. It looks like your cat is on your head. Because
I know.
oh, that's a great cat tree, by the way. But it literally looked
Thank
like
you. I usually can like block him like this, but I'm just hanging out today. Yeah, he's
all
on my
right.
head
Well,
right
keep
now.
up the good work, Ashley. I'm gonna oh, Sarah wants me to send that to you. I will do that, Sarah. And I'll turn it over if anybody has any thoughts for Ashley, and then we'll move on to Angela.
Thanks, Monica.
Actually,
You're
I
welcome.
almost feel jealous that you could go off on somebody. Like I almost think that that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Really?
But I don't know. Probably it's not the safest thing, but if they triggered you, and I guess just own it and like move on. And I'm sure that person is kind of a bully too, in a way. It triggers you.
Yeah, definitely. And so that like little devil side of me was like, I deserve to do that. And then like the mature adult was like, what did you do? You know, it was like, go in. It was like, don't do this, you know.
You did it once.
Yeah.
You know, so don't beat yourself up.
Fighter spirit is going to serve you. I like that fighter spirit too.
Me too.
And I think that it just has to be channeled the right way, and you'll be unstoppable.
Right.
It'll make for a good story later on, so don't beat yourself.
Someday you'll laugh about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, doing such good work. I too appreciate how you can enjoy your alone time and reading a book and being quiet. That's what this COVID time is for. And then it'll be over soon enough and you'll be out exploring, and he'll be a lawyer, and like in time, you're just going to have everything. So patience, little Jedi, patience.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
Ashley, I just wanted to congratulate you on recognizing your need for that physical space and going to your partner and saying, can I just leave the door open just a crack? Just it's just acknowledging that you're here and I'm here, and I just,
Yeah, exactly.
totally cool. I really applaud you. for that.
Thank you. It was so hard to ask for that though.
Did you
was
find that
so
now
hard.
that his response, does it make it easier? Do you feel like it'll be easier next time you want to ask something like that because of how he responded?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Graham always responds like that. He's like the most peaceful, even keel person. He is this like stable. He's like, okay, that's fine. You know, it's me taking like how happy I was after that had happened and be like, remember how much like happiness and love you felt just by asking to crack the door and keeping the door cracked for like 6 hours while he studies. Like that little thing just like it changed my whole weekend. It changed my whole entire weekend. Where last semester I would have been upset for like a whole weekend because of like that very thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, taking your power back. That's awesome. Did you tell him how much that meant to you?
I don't know. I think maybe I don't think so. I don't
You
think
don't have
so.
to. I was just curious. Yeah, but just as long as you know
no.
that, like, yeah, just remember that and put it in your brag book if you haven't already.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys.
All right. You're welcome. Have a great rest of the week and a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right, Angela, are you still on? Is that you?
I'm here.
You
Hi.
are.
I just want to say real quick. I love to hear everybody's like successes. It's just so nice, even if they're tiny. It's like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
appreciate. I always jump on, even if I don't really know what I have to say or want to share. I just feel so happy when I hear the teeny tiny little successes that everyone's making. So.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Because the little things are the big things always. I really believe that. And it's encouraging. How are you, Angela? What's going well for you? Let's start with what's going well.
I don't know that I have a success. I feel like last week was a great week to come on and talk about things feeling so good, and then literally since then it's not been. So, and I'm sure I play a role in that. So yeah, I don't really know what I have to share.
Well, I mean, you're on the call now. That's a celebration.
Yeah, I guess I'm here. I'm not checking in at the Marriott down the street yet, so I guess I'm, fighting the good fight. I guess I'm a little curious. I asked Jay something this morning when he said he had time to hear me or listen or whatever, and I posed it like, I'm really sensitive to being perceived as a nag by him, and so I don't want to be a nag or on, but if I don't say things for a long time, if I just don't say anything, then I start to feel resentful. So I asked exactly like that's exactly what I said. So I said, like, so what is the best way that I could say something to you so that I can, share what I want, but without being perceived as a nag by you? Which I thought was a really good question.
Yeah.
And then he said, sorry, I'm sitting in my car and I can't find a good spot with the sun. So anyway, I asked him that, and he said, can you give me an example of what you're talking about? So I gave him an example of something that's on my mind that I wanted to talk about. But instead of like answering me like how I could say it so that he wouldn't think I was a nag, he just proceeded to argue with me about what I was saying. So
you got derailed.
Yes, oftentimes that is what happens. And so I was just like, forget it. And I walked away, but then we end up in a fight because then it spirals into like me defending my position, because we come back, we don't like walk away and let it drop. Like one of us approaches the other one and tries again, like we try again, but lately, I won't say never, but lately it has been really unsuccessful. So I'm just curious. And I think he saw what he was doing, because then I finally did walk away, and I was just like, I don't want to talk to you. And then he came in and he said, I was in the office, and he came in and he said, so are you free to do lesson 4 today? We're still talking about lesson 4 months later. And I said, sure, but do you think we'll have a minute to kind of sort through what happened this morning?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, do you want to do lesson 4 or not? So I said, well, sure, but I really kind of wanted to talk about the way things went down this morning. So my question, I guess, is like, I think it's fair to ask to like talk about what went down, how it got so derailed, and it's been derailed a couple of times in the past 7 days. So yeah,
Okay.
I don't.
So, well, do you want my thoughts on what you could do to revisit the conversation and have it go well?
I think
Or what do
so.
you feel
I
like you, what do you want? What's the coaching that you want right now?
I don't know. I just feel like all of our bad habits are in play again. And I was like journaling after like he left. I was just like, I wrote down like, at the end of the day, I need to feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to know that it is important for him to keep his commitments to me, both big and small. And I want to feel like we're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like where all of this is it's always coming back to like those things. So he doesn't even need to agree with me, but I just need to know that he's not going to, I don't know, disagree with me. I don't know. I'm always just saying to him, like, I need you to just say like you understand how I might feel that way, which doesn't even mean that you agree with me.
But you didn't go into the conversation wanting that. You went into the conversation asking him a question. How can I follow up on something in a way that will not feel nagging to you? How would you like me to do that? That was a totally valid question. And it was a good question, and it was showing that you are wanting to hear him and to adjust in a way that will work for both of you. So that was like, I think, a great question. He asked for an example. That's dicey territory. I might say something like, do you feel like are you not sure on what I'm talking about? Like, do you not know what I mean? And that's why you're asking for an example? Or are you asking for an example because you might take issue with the example? Or are you asking for an example because you really are not sure what I'm talking about? That's what I would maybe do to make sure, because, or if you just want to answer the question and give him the example, be very clear as soon as he starts to argue to not even go into that at all and just say, I just shared that example with you so that you would understand my question. Can we go back to my question? So whether or not you agree with me on that, I'm just asking you a question. Do you feel like you can answer that right now? And if he just can't, and if he just wants to fight with you, then you can say, all right, well, I guess I will just take that as you're not able to answer that question right now. And then you can just disengage the conversation. And it sounds like you already did try to disengage the conversation, but holding that boundary and being like, that's not why I brought up this conversation. Like, it's taking your power back and saying, I was trying to have this kind of conversation. Now you're trying to have this kind of conversation, and that's not what I want to do right now. And you don't have to have the conversation. You don't have to answer my question either, but then just tell me that, right? And but then what ends up happening is now it becomes this whole larger issue of accountability and follow through. And I would separate that out from the repair on this morning. So if what you're saying is like, can we talk about this morning and repair this morning? I would do the feedback wheel. And I would say, when I asked you that question, and then you wanted an example, and then you started arguing with the example, the meaning that I give it is, now we're talking about all these other things and I'm not feeling seen and heard, and it's just impossible. And then I want to walk away, and then it doesn't get, like whatever the story is, right? And then how I feel is defeated or scared. I won't be able to, we won't be able to do this, or whatever the feeling is. And then what I need for repair is what? And that would be the thing I would ask you now is, what do you feel like you need for repair? Because it's fair enough to say, before we venture into the emotional connection exercise, which is actually one of the more challenging ones in this process to do together, especially if there's hot button things that are just under the surface, you do want to have repair on what happened this morning before you go into lesson 4. You shouldn't be, that's not an either or question. Yes, I want to do lesson 4. I've always been wanting to do lesson 4. Don't make it sound like this is now up to me. And if I want to repair, that means I don't want to do lesson 4. That's not the issue. Yes, I want to do lesson 4 and I'd like to repair first. Like, that's okay for you to say that. So I would just say, hold your ground on that and say, are you open to repair? And if he's not open to having a repair conversation, and in knowing what that is, knowing what the terms of that are, then just say, okay, let me know when you are ready and we can have a repair conversation. And then in the meantime, you're not continuing the fighting. And you know that when you come back together, it's with the intention of, we're going to follow this structure. Follow the structure of the feedback wheel, because otherwise you will end up in that old place.
Yeah, we probably should have done lesson 4 last week when we were feeling so good after 3 weeks of feeling good. Because I don't know, I don't want to be defeatist, but it's just feeling like he's just doing it because he feels like I'm bitching at him, and I'm over that. Whereas last week when it was on the calendar, it didn't really feel like that's the place that it was coming from, Anyway. Okay.
Well, and that's been the thing that's been a longstanding issue of that you're more committed to doing the lessons than he is, but you also were able to have a really awesome few weeks, even without doing the lessons, because things had shifted. And so if you could still have peace between you, if you could have successful repair without doing lesson 4 right now, I would choose that. Don't make it about lesson 4, even though I understand what that means to you, but it's still data collection to say, okay, I never brought it up again. I told you how important it was to me. You changed plans on it 5 different times. I asked you how I could bring things up in a way that's not nagging. You never answered me, so I stopped trying. And then by the end of this process, we never did it. It wasn't for lack of trying on my end, but that's information that you need. And so in a way, you kind of have to allow him to potentially disappoint you first to see what you're actually dealing with. Maybe he will come back around and you will do lesson 4. It will be great. And then he'll be like, why didn't I do this sooner? I don't know why I was resisting it so much. Because he really he must be having some kind of resistance around that. And maybe he's not even really fully aware of that. So I don't know if that helps or not, Angela, but how did you guys leave it? Did you leave it as like, we're going to maybe repair this later?
No, he said he was going to go for a walk. That was it. So
Okay.
he went for a walk.
Here's what I suggest. I would say, Angela, take what happened and put it into a feedback wheel. Write it out, write it into a feedback wheel structure, and have it ready and have it prepared, and know when it's time to repair, this is what I'm going to say and nothing more. And I'm not going to respond to derailing, and I'm not going to allow it to be derailed. If it starts to get derailed, I'll say, hey, listen, we can come back and try this another time. Hold your boundary on that. I think you'll feel a lot better. I think you have leverage here. I think it would work. I really think it would work. If you are just like unavailable to any other kind of conversation, okay, we're not repaired. You have hurt feelings and it's not repaired. So you get to hold that line and just be like, be respectful. Like you don't have to be incongruent, but don't add anything to it, right? Don't add anything to it. Just walk around it, take care of yourself, hold the boundary, let him know that you're ready for repair whenever he is, and let him know that's what you'd like to do using the feedback wheel. And if he knows, if you are explicit about using the feedback wheel, I wonder if he would be more on board with it, because then he knows it is going to be contained. It's not going to be there's not that risk of, oh, now we're going to end up in some 3-hour long fight because it's got the boundaries around it.
Right.
Because you could maybe repair it and maybe he'll be like, you're right, and I'm sorry, and then you'll feel better, and then we'll do lesson 4. And we have a session tomorrow afternoon too. So we can talk about this tomorrow if you don't get to it today.
Okay.
But I just want to encourage you to stay where you are. Remember those beliefs. Remember, like, these are the standards I'm holding.
Right.
And feel the feelings that you're having, but don't bypass also what's already happened for the last 3 weeks. Like before that, there were some really good things. Remember, incorporate that into your lenses as well. Like, look at this as this is a setback, and we can get back. We can use our tools and we can get back. So just, I think, be more aware of where your mind is going down the old story, then that will help you stay back, like, strong. And I guess be able to use the tools in a way where even if he's not, you know that you didn't get pulled in down that old way, into that vortex, or whatever you want to call it. I forget what you guys call it. Was it the pit?
I don't
I can't
remember.
remember what the word was
I'll have to
that
add
they
it.
used. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I can't. Now it's driving me crazy, but I'll think of it. Off the rails, but I don't even think that's it. Anyway, yeah, let's.
That'll help.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I just jumped on today more because I also learned from hearing you reiterate things to other people. It's just a good refresher.
Mhm.
We'll get one way or the other, like you
Well,
said. It's information, or it's, one way or the other. It's
yeah,
information. So,
exactly. So I'm going to turn it over, and we'll see if anybody has any thoughts, any words of encouragement, anything you can relate to. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And Tatiana never came back, did she?
I can certainly relate to the accusation of nagging, or the just withdrawing because they don't want to talk about it. And just appreciate what Monica is saying about stay in your lane, stay in your boundaries, stay on topic. And if he's not able to participate, then say, okay, I'll be out in the yard, or I'll be out in the car.
exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Keep it up. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll get good again, Angela. It will. I'm sorry that happened. Keep
Yeah,
us
I want to
posted, will
second
you?
that too. It's an old habit. It sounds like your husband is he's got a big personality and a strong will, and he's just being stubborn, and you just have to keep going with your good feeling and what you want, and he's going to see that, and it's going to change. Like, I know that for myself, I've had to watch stepping back into old habits of feeling resentment, feeling not heard, and those like are old tapes, and that, and you're trying to change it. So acknowledge that and just keep walking forward. Don't take the step backwards, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're strong, and it doesn't, just because, I don't know, just don't give up, and don't feel like it's a setback that's going to be like detrimental or whatever. You're learning and you're changing, and this just shows you what you need to change.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think because we were coming off of three solidly very good weeks,
Right.
It was, I think you let your guard down a little bit, or I do. I'm just like, oh, this feels just so good, and then maybe forget some of the lessons or techniques, that you can apply when things kind of get rocky again.
And I'm sure he feels that way too. Like, that was so great, and then this is a setback for him too, and he's kind of like, oh, what happened? So
Yeah, maybe. So we'll see. But
yeah.
Sarah, you always have so many nice things to say to everybody, so thank you. That's always, I appreciate that.
All right, hang in there, Angela. I just remember you saying, wow, it's like everything I wanted, right? It was there. So try to stay focused on that. Going back to the self-soothing thoughts during the timeouts is what we do mentally with those with the time apart, that is where the narrative gets changed. A lot of times it's just inside of our own mind in the times where we're like retreating into our corners. It's what we do with that mentally for you and for Jay, right? And obviously you can't do it for Jay, but that finding that power again and going back to the fundamentals of like, okay, what can I own? What can I clean up? What could I do differently next time? And what do I need to ask for? And being really
Right.
clear in the intention of what the conversation is. Here is my intention in this conversation. Sometimes I think you guys have where it gets derailed, not just you, for everyone, where if people aren't clear about what their intentions are for the communication,
Mhm.
right? Like one person is just wanting to be heard and the other person is trying to defend themselves and their reputation. And they're just different agendas and neither person is getting what they need. And then everybody just starts doubling down and then it gets to be such a mess.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
I get it.
but I'm rooting for you. And I have every confidence that you guys will get back into a better place. And especially by after tomorrow too. Do you think that it would be good to have, should I have any kind of like one-on-one with Jay or you in that slot that we were gonna have the joint call?
I mean, I don't really. I know that he can't do it because he double booked himself for that earlier spot. Is that what you're asking me? Should we keep the other one?
Yeah, that's right. I
like-
forgot the reason why we changed that.
Yeah. I think he could use a
Okay.
one-on-one, but far be it from me to tell him what to do. And so, yeah, no, I feel okay just from that quick little text that, you sent me earlier, and it's a good reminder, just gathering
Okay.
information, stay in my lane. So I'm good. And I'm going to take what you said today and just try to communicate with him, to repair, what's been kind of off the rails,
Okay.
off the rails. Let's see my word, right? So anyway, all right. Well, thank you.
I'll send you guys an
We'll talk-
email and I'll send it to both of you. You guys just reply back to me and let me know what is it, what's your hope? It doesn't have to be a reply all, just separately to me, like what is it that you would like for the call tomorrow so that I can kind of prepare the structure of the call because you might have different wants for the call.
Okay.
But if I know ahead of time, I can make that happen. Okay?
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. So good to see all of you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you next week. Keep up the wonderful
Bye.
work. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.